American strikes on Iran would not remain a regional military event for very long, because modern wars do not spread only through borders. They spread through energy markets, shipping routes, financial systems, and supply chains. The battlefield moves faster than armies. And in this scenario, the first battlefield would be one of the most important waterways on Earth, the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula that carries a substantial portion of the world's seaborne oil trade. On a map, it looks insignificant. In reality, it functions as one of the pressure points holding the global economy together. For decades, military planners, energy analysts, and governments have worried about the same question. What happens if that route becomes unusable? Not damaged, not delayed, closed, because the consequences would extend far beyond the Middle East. Oil markets would react first, not because supply had already disappeared, but because markets price future risk, not present reality. Traders would begin calculating shortages before shortages actually existed. Shipping companies would reconsider routes. Insurance costs for tankers would rise sharply. Energy importers would begin competing for available supplies. The result would be immediate pressure on prices. And oil is rarely just oil. Modern agriculture depends on fuel. Modern logistics depends on fuel. Factories depend on fuel. Global trade depends on fuel. When energy becomes more expensive, almost everything eventually becomes more expensive. The second shock would arrive through natural gas markets. Several major exporters in the Gulf rely on the same maritime corridor. Any disruption would ripple into electricity generation, industrial production, and heating markets across multiple continents. Countries already struggling with inflation would suddenly face another source of economic pressure. Central banks would face an uncomfortable choice: fight inflation with higher interest rates, or support slowing economies with lower rates. Sometimes economic crises are not caused by financial mistakes. Sometimes they arrive aboard cargo ships that never reach their destination. But the economic consequences are only one layer of the story. The strategic consequences may last much longer. Every major conflict forces governments to reveal priorities they would rather keep hidden. Military resources are redirected. Diplomatic relationships are tested. Alliances strengthen or weaken under pressure. Countries that prefer neutrality find neutrality becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. A regional conflict starts creating global political consequences, and history suggests those consequences often outlive the war itself. There is another reality that receives less attention. Globalization was designed around efficiency. Supply chains became faster, cheaper, more optimized, but optimization often removes redundancy. The systems that deliver prosperity during stability can become vulnerabilities during disruption. A factory shutdown in one country affects production in another. A shipping delay in one region changes prices somewhere else. A military escalation thousands of miles away eventually arrives as inflation, shortages, or economic uncertainty at home. Distance matters less than connectivity. That may be the most important lesson of all. The modern world is not held together only by treaties or military alliances. It is held together by assumptions. Assumptions that shipping lanes remain open, that energy continues flowing, that supply chains keep moving, that geopolitical tensions remain manageable. The danger is not simply that wars become larger. The danger is discovering how much of the global economy quietly depends on those assumptions remaining true. Because if American strikes on Iran were to trigger a wider confrontation, the real question would not be how far the missiles travel. The real question would be how far the consequences travel. And in the 21st century, those consequences can reach almost everywhere.